Hi, welcome to another episode of the Not Podcast. It's not a podcast, but it's not a podcast either. I'm your host, Daryl Oh, and I'm here to share the stories and lessons that my younger self desperately needed and an archive for my future self to look back on and say, wow, you really did that. So each week, I like to take a topic, argue both sides, and try to find the middle ground to be able to live in the paradox, right? Because like the Kabbalion says, all truths are but half-truths. And so this week, we're diving into how to not be online, where we ask, what does it mean to be online in 2025 as a millennial, okay? What does it mean to not be online? And then ultimately, how do we not be online, which is that wonderful gray area where we're not being online in a toxic way, maybe how we grew up with it. We're not going to completely ghost and go off grid because we love the internet, but we have to find a way to navigate this tool so that we're empowering ourselves to be ourselves rather than having it be another tool of distraction and people pleasing. And this is especially true if you're like me and you suffer from codependent tendencies, you're healing from disorganized attachment, and you're trying to find a way to be online authentically. Okay. I don't think I'm the first person that's brought us this topic, but in order for me to get into this, we have to go back all the way to the 2000s, where around 2004, I came home from school. And if you're a millennial like me, you also had this experience where your mother said you were allowed to have an AIM account. So you and your brother both rushed to the computer, okay? Because you've got 1 hour of shared computer time with dial-up. So your mom can get on the phone so that when she's making dinner, she can make the long distance call to her girlfriend so that she can prepare that meal hands-free with the Britney Spears headset connected to a cordless house phone connected on her hip, okay? This is a modern woman trying to have it all. So cut to me finally getting my 30 minutes on the computer, and I'm sitting there staring at it, and it's my first existential identity crisis where I go, hold on. I've tried to figure out who I was offline this whole time, but now I get to figure out who I want to be online. And if I can just find the right combinations of words and letters and emoticons, the boy that I have a crush on will finally realize that I'm the love of his life. He will drop everything, ask me out, and we will get a slow dance at his bar mitzvah this Saturday. Okay? Now, cut to my mom finding out that I chose Little Lucy Lou 97 and then quickly changing my username into some sort of like random letters and numbers that were a combination of my initials and her country of origin, which is New Zealand. Joke's on her, though, because when I went to school that next Monday, all of my friends were like, whoa, you have such an edgy username. And I was like, yeah, I do. Me thinking like, what are you talking about? It's literally DMO, my initials, NZ for New Zealand, where my mom's from, and then the number 9, my favorite number. I'm like, what are these guys? What are they talking about? But here's where the game begins. They go, oh my God, Daryl, you're so edgy. It's Demons 9. And I was like, wait a second, I can spin this in my favor. Yeah, I am edgy. Yeah, like I am a demon. Like honestly, just on some fake emo, simple plan, Blink 182 middle school BS, right? And I wouldn't be surprised if a big part of my personality in middle school and potentially even now is coded from that experience. Now, listen. Many of us have been online all of our adult lives. And until recently, I had been online since the 5th grade. Okay, that's 20 years of being online. And yes, I've had breaks where I went to places where I lost a Wi-Fi signal and I was forced to be online, but that's very different to the choice that I made 8 weeks ago, maybe 12 at this point, where I decided to go off the grid, not post anything, not post on social media, try and stay offline, try and stay off the apps. And this all stems from the very famous book, The Artist's Way. And if you guys have been following me for a while, you know that I started this book about 3.5 months ago, thinking that I was going to share my journey all the way through. But instead, what happened on week 4 was a reading detox that caused me to turn off my phone for the first time while still having a Wi-Fi signal. And let me tell you, the first hour that I turned off my phone, I wasn't allowed to read. I wasn't allowed to listen to music. I wasn't allowed to listen to a podcast. All that I had was my morning pages, which is literally a Bic pen and a Muji notebook and me, myself, and I. And I was bargaining with the gods. I was like, please, I'll just go on for like 15 seconds to check one thing. That's it. And it's like, all of a sudden, the iPad kid that I've been making fun of this whole time is me. I'm her right here. I'm the fucking kid in the Louis C.K. joke that's freaking out because she doesn't have her little emotional support screen, you know? But that dissipated, and I was actually pleasantly surprised with how quickly it dissipated. It probably took like an hour for me to go, wow, this is really liberating. I'm not worrying about what I'm going to post next, or if the post that I just made is engaging the way that it needs to, or if I'm being liked in the right way so that the right client finds me, and then I'll find money, and then everything will be good and I'll be happy. And in that moment, I realized I've done it. I've cracked the code. The secret to creative recovery is getting offline. I'm going to delete all my social media apps. I'm not going to do the podcast again, and I'm going to live off grid. And so 1 week turned into 2 weeks, turned into 8 weeks. I finished the Artist Way program, and what's staring me in the face is a girl that is contending with having to get back on the horse, that's having to get back online. Okay, so I've been online for 20 years. I finally have a break for 8 weeks. I'm offline. And listen, this is a place that many of you should stay. Okay, some of you do, and I encourage you to be completely internet sober. Right? This would be equivalent to the person who's in, Alcoholics Anonymous and is choosing sobriety, is choosing, I'm not going to have another drip of alcohol because I do not have the self-control to have it be anything but a destructive force in my life, for it to be for dissociating, for it to be for deluding oneself, to numb oneself. And believe me, an internet addiction can definitely do that. And I think the 8 weeks that I took off forced me to confront an addiction that was way deeper than I was willing to admit otherwise. But unlike an alcohol addiction, I want to be back on the internet. I want to be able to acquire the skills that would allow me to drink again. Okay? And not because I think, I'm literally trying to say like, drink alcohol as a solution to your addiction. That is not the advice that I'm giving. Although I am surprised to find out that more recently healing or recovery looks more like being able to reintegrate the substance that was otherwise controlling your life, because it means that you've gone to the root cause. I realized navigating these two sides of to be online or to not be online, because I can argue for both sides. I can see the benefit of both. But the way that I was online prior to taking the time off is not the way that I want to go back online. That's why I don't want to not be online. I just want to not be online, right? Are we picking up on a theme here? We're trying to be able to navigate the gray space. But more importantly, I want to be able to take the skills and the way that I am when I'm not engaging with the internet, which really means setting boundaries and going to the source of the problem, which is that I constantly am using the internet as a way to distract myself from who I am, to not let there be enough silence for me to have ideas bubble up before I go onto the internet and actually post them before I consume anybody else's ideas. Right? It's kind of similar to analysis paralysis. After a while, like Sylvia Plath says with her fig tree, you've just got to choose a fig. Okay, and I'm actually going to read that. I'm going to read that quote right now because it's so powerful. It was in her book, The Bell Jar. And I don't love the book completely because I don't relate to all of it, but there's this one scene that Sylvia Plath writes about where she's comparing to her life like a fig tree that she's standing in front of. And she says, I saw my life branching out before me like the green fig tree in the story. From the tip of every branch like a fat purple fig, a wonderful future beckoned and winked. One fig was husband and a family and children, and another fig was a famous poet, and another fig was a brilliant professor, and another fig was E.G., the amazing editor, and another fig was Europe and Africa and South America, and another fig was Constantine and Socrates and Attila. What's Attila? Oh my God, showing my ignorance here. and a pack of other lovers with queer names and offbeat professions. And another fig was an Olympic lady crew champion. And beyond and above these figs were many more figs I couldn't quite make out. And I saw myself sitting in the crotch of this fig tree, starving to death just because I couldn't make up my mind which of the figs I would choose. I wanted each and every one of them, but choosing one meant losing the rest. And I sat there unable to decide. The figs began to wrinkle and go black, and one by one they plopped to the ground at my feet. This, while it does seem off topic, is at the core of what I want to share with people, which is that it's more about taking the personal responsibility of choosing to try out life. Because if you wait to try and find the perfect one, if you wait for who you are to come bubbling out of the surface through all of this input, it's not going to happen. You have to proactively go out and choose who you want to be, try it on for size, and then decide you didn't like the taste of it, so you can go back to the tree and pick another one and pick another one. Because picking a fig doesn't prevent you from picking another one. Not picking a fig in the first place prevents you from picking a fig. So when it comes to being online in 2025, how does this quote actually help us? Well, it comes down to the core philosophy of something that I shared on my podcast last year, and it's at the core of my brand, which is that when we don't know who we are, or when we don't know what we need, we can start with what we are not. We can start with who we are not. And how we do that is inviting the mistake into our life as the data we need to figure out if this is the right fit. Okay? So if I cut back to that example where I'm in middle school and I'm coming back on Monday to confront people with the fact that my username isn't as cool as theirs, and then they go, oh, it's actually so cool that your username is DMONZ. Like they thought it was like something that it wasn't. And instead of just being like, no, that's not it, I decided to embody the identity they thought was cool because I was just using the internet as an extension of this root problem, which is that I wanted to be liked instead of liking myself first. And I'm not saying that previous generations have not had that issue. They have had that issue. Right? But I'm saying it's exacerbated by the ability to get unlimited access to information 24/7 and constantly see the best curated version of your friends and colleagues around you. So like being able to go to the source of the reason for why you are using alcohol to numb, if you solve for that, then the alcohol isn't going to be a problem because there is no problem to numb. You're getting direct to source. But what I have always struggled with as a people pleaser and a perfectionist is I felt like I should be ashamed that it was hard for me to be my authentic self online. When of course it's hard. Of course it's hard. You can't control the fact that it's hard. What you can control is your ability to navigate it. And that's not even to ask myself to be perfect, because I probably will embrace and have to embrace another 8-week hiatus from the internet where I turn off all the faucets and I give myself an opportunity to hear completely in a vacuum and in silence. But like everything in this world, it's not a stagnant destination. The journey is the destination. And when you have this mathematical equation to hold on to navigate the paradox of everything that is minus everything that you are not equals who you are. Okay? So this is an invitation for you to be online, to take the breaks, to do what you need to do. But to remember that if you are doing something because you don't have the skill to be able to do it, and I'm not talking about biological addictions here, although again, I don't know. I feel like in my experience with addiction, and this is a very personal story, but reintegrating the substances that were previously a problem has been a great signifier of my ability to work on the root issues. But that is not a truth for everybody. And so if you tried that fig on for size, you tried the taste of that fig and it didn't work for you, then it's important for you to know that that means you have to change. Not change who you are fundamentally, but change your environment, change the way that you're going about things, and ultimately get to that root issue. But I think that it's very dangerous in the spiritual community or the self-help community, and I wouldn't even consider myself a part of that. I would consider myself more a part of the artistic community or the post-disciplinary community. But at the end of the day, it really is, which is to navigate what it means to be who you are and to be in this world and to reflect back those feelings and ideas internally, externally, through symbols, through story, through whatever medium that you would like. But to sit in a vacuum and not write or not be online is not a solution. Not in my book. Not here. So if this is something that you've been struggling with, I really encourage you to absolve yourself of the guilt that you haven't figured it out and embrace that as a way of you actively figuring out who you are and be in the motion and flow of that than to be upset that you haven't made it there yet. And while most of what I am saying is something that has been said before by other teachers who are way smarter than me and had way more life experience, the point of me being on this podcast and sharing maybe some of those platitudes with you is so that I can actively witness myself embracing my ability to be online without being told who I am. To be strong enough to shape the environment that I am in than for the environment just to simply shape me. If you are always constantly letting the external shape who you are to the point where you have forgotten what you looked like to begin with, who you were to begin with, maybe you're like me and you were never even given a chance at a young age to even find that shape because you were so quick to be online, or you were so quick to be something that you were not, that you honestly didn't wake up until 20 years later and be like, wow, I was under the pretense that I was a unique individual, but I was under the spell like everybody else. And again, it's not that I'm not in that spell now. It's just that I'm aware of it. I'm equipped to understand it, and I'm going to go back in, coach. And maybe this fig is rotten that I'm trying right now. Maybe this podcast isn't what's meant for me. But what I'm not going to do is quit before I've actually found out. And I'm not going to quit just because I am struggling with a skill that requires me to look bad at something in public. So for the last part of the episode, I thought I'd switch it up and bring over my list of favorite things. Every 2 weeks on my newsletter, I like to list all of my favorite things: movies, fashion, books, what I'm reading, what's in my bag. And so this week, I thought I'd start with this beautiful item right here. The other day, I was going through my boyfriend's stuff and I found this relic from history, which was a iPod Shuffle Mini with 2 gigabytes of space on it and a 1x1 inch video screen. When these things came out, it's the peak of technology. Forget 1,000 songs in your pocket, Steve Jobs. It was like 10 times that much, if not more. But what's interesting is the idea that I take my music off of my cell phone that has access to the internet and put it onto this thing right here, which doesn't have internet and a limited amount of space for music, because the one thing that the iPhone has that this thing doesn't, because it's connected to the internet, is an app that we like to call a streaming service. So what that does is that it robs us of the curatorial practice of sitting in front of a computer and deciding what deserves to be on our iPod, what deserves to take up the limited space. And you could think about this as well as like the amount of space that you have in your attention span. And that if you use too much of this space up with other people's shit, you're probably not going to be able to have enough space to hear your own shit. But I digress. The literal reason why we're using this is because I want to be able to take music with me without also taking my cell phone. Because when I do, it's hard for me to not be online. Because ultimately all that I do is open up my phone, choose a song, let the internet decide the mood, and then I have to go back on and change it. There's constant notifications coming on there. So I think that I'm making my point. Get a device that doesn't have internet access and put your music on it. Go to the thrift store, find a CD player. Buy a CD. So this is an amazing device. I really recommend the website Back Market. If you're in the US, I'll go ahead and put their link in the description. No, that's not a sponsored recommendation. It's truly just because I absolutely love that they have refurbished retro tech. They even have Game Boys, which would be a good alternative for being able to unwind or being able to still have access to tech. But again, it not being online so you can be undistracted with oneself. But I'm a tech girl, and I don't think that we should have to live in a world where you go completely Amish to be healthy mentally. So the next thing I'm recommending is a fashion item. And if you're watching me on YouTube, you will see me putting them on right now. But these are my grandma glasses. These are the UV blockers that you can get in a 3-pack on Amazon for $24.99. All of the things that I'm listing here and all of the things that I have ever listed on any of my podcasts or any of my newsletters are in my Amazon storefront. So I'm going to also link that in the description below. But yeah, these things are beautiful because if you're like me, when I do buy designer glasses, I lose them really quickly. But these bad boys I've had for years. You can throw them in your bag. You can throw them in a beach bag. You can throw them on the sand and it doesn't matter. They're 100% UV. Can you hear that? They're really, really durable and they look sick. I'm giving like Blade Runner. I'm giving Balenciaga. I'm giving Rick. It's so cool. And I love when you wear a babushka scarf and you sort of have it like over your ears like this. It's just really giving. I love it so much. And especially with my bald headedness, it just like looks so chic to be so Jackie O with it. You know, like the scarf and the sunglasses. It's just like loving. Next on the list is the book that I'm reading, which right now is like a very heady, spiritual, mathematical book called The Enneagram Studies. I won't bore you with the details, but if you're like me and you like the intersection of science and spirituality, this is definitely going to be a book that itches all of the scratches. It talks about the theory of the creation of everything. And it's not even a theory, it's a mathematical equation. And while many of us are familiar with the Enneagram of personality, this is where that comes from. If you're the 99.9% of people that have an idea that can't follow through on it, this book is going to tell you exactly why and how to break through to the other side. Now, is that going to actually be easy? No, but at least you're going to know what to expect and exactly the reasons for why you failed on follow through. So that's awesome. Last but not least is my food recommendation of the week. It is not food at all. It is this beautiful packet of protein and collagen by the Bare Bones Company. It's their instant bone broth and chicken flavor. When I tell you this has single-handedly solved my eternal not eating breakfast problem, I'm telling you the truth, because instead of me being forced to choke down a chalky piece of toast and bread and eggs, which is the last thing I want to put in my stomach when I've only woken up 30 minutes ago, this allows me to drink it in a warm, beautiful cup of savory broth. And it's fabulous because you also get your collagen in, and I don't know if all of you are a fan of that, but I definitely notice a difference between my skin quality when I'm eating and not eating collagen, let alone all of the other connective tissue benefits that you get from having collagen. So I will leave that in the description as well. But if you've made it this far, thank you guys so much. I have so much fun doing this podcast. I'm not good at it, but that's the point. So I'm going to leave it there. For those of you who have listened this far, thank you so much. Leave a comment with your favorite song below so I can add it to my iPod this week. If you haven't already, make sure you hit subscribe, like and subscribe, do all the good things. The link to sign up for my newsletter is below for those of you who prefer reading instead of listening. But I will be back here in 2 weeks for another episode where we are going to dive into what it means to not be for sale. So I will see you then. In the meantime, check out my other videos, follow me on all the other socials. I'd love to get to know you guys. It's just such an honor to be able to occupy even a little bit of your coveted attention span. And I really hope that this encourages you to figure out how to live in the liminal space of basically nothing being true and everything being true at once, which is God's greatest joke. All right, guys, talk to you later. Bye.